Hi, I'm Nicole. I'm not tech savvy at all, so if there's more of these to come, they will not be very tech savvy because I am not. Um, so, listening to the TED Talk, what I thought was really interesting was seeing, like, I don't know if it's brain waves, but how specific parts of the brain engages with different, not necessarily, it's the way that I took it wasn't necessarily the sounds or the words that took it to the higher order areas. I'm looking down at the notes I took too. But it was the meaning that was conveyed and that the listener or reader understood. And so I thought that was kind of cool how that connection was made, that, there's a lot of different ways to say the same thing and convey the same meaning. So you could say it like he said, you could say, the English and Russian, how they played it for, both people who spoke the native languages. And it, the sounds and the words that were used weren't exactly the same, and it didn't engage the same parts of the brain neurologically, but the meaning was the same. So what I took away from that is that there's 1,000 different ways that you can say the same thing, and or not necessarily say the same thing, but convey the same meaning, and that is gonna engage your brain to that higher order area, which I thought was cool. I mean, that was pretty cool. I guess it's kind of a connective way, kind of how he was saying, like, we all have these common grounds. So I thought that was cool, the connection part. I thought what was also cool is that he said that the listener and the speaker, I mean, he didn't say it verbatim, but the listener and the speaker, as far as like neurologically, it's similar brain responses. So it said to me that, like, both are equally important to understanding the meaning. So it's not just, sitting there necessarily watching a TED Talk and like hearing it. It's definitely, you have to be active, and the speaker needs to be engaging, and hopefully you walk away with the same meaning, hopefully. But then in that same note that I thought was interesting was that how he was talking about the two groups of people who were told, like, oh, the wife was definitely cheating, and then the wife was loyal and the husband's just jealous. They had different responses, and I don't know if he said there was different outcomes. I don't remember, but to me it was kind of a disclaimer and setting up the reader or whatever to, take away, oh yeah, she's a cheater, and maybe you'll have like a bias there, and maybe, oh, the wife's loyal, and maybe you have a bias towards the husband, whatnot. But it kind of sets it up for a specific demographic, so you can kind of steer your listener or reader one way or the other. And it made me think of, I think he said something about media outlets, it made me really think of, like, oh, like specific, like, let's say Fox News, for example, is maybe going to be on the more conservative side, and they're going to like convey their information that way, which would make sense. And then vice versa for, I don't I don't know who else, but other media outlets that are maybe not conservative. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And then the other part, he said the ability to have common ground in shared belief systems, and that seemed to be like a big part of, or at least what he was talking about for the communication. And I don't know if he necessarily meant that neurologically, or socially, or you know I don't know, maybe in Western society, maybe in wherever you are. But I thought that was interesting because not everybody's going to have the same belief system. Maybe there are a lot of people who do, and maybe that's going to be, who you connect with more. But he also talked about like having an open mind and being able to hear like the different meanings. So I wasn't sure where the connection was there. It kind of sounded like a contradiction. or maybe I misunderstood it, but or maybe he was trying to say that even if you have different belief systems, you can find a common ground. And I don't know, that's what I took away from that. So I'm not really sure on that portion of it, but what was really cool was like the kind of like object lesson that he showed with the metronomes, and when they began to synchronize. I think it gave a really cool visual to something that's probably pretty hard to measure or prove, as far as like, being out of sync and then kind of working together, kind of developed kind of like that equilibrium so that they all got in sync. I don't know. I thought that was cool. I mean, it was cool metaphor, I guess, to see how communication and the sounds and the words and the meaning like all connect together. And so yeah, it was cool. It was cool. But yeah, that part with the shared beliefs, I was like, I'm not really sure where you're going with that. And then yeah, I guess that was it. And the part at the end with the sound was really cool because it was more about it seemed like it wasn't necessarily about the sound, but the way that it was communicated and the meaning behind it, which just reinforced kind of what it was, I think, the core of what he was talking about in general. So yeah, that's all. Thanks.